A master once said, "A wise man learns from everything, while a fool insists he knows everything." In the pursuit of clarity and wisdom, one of the most profound skills is not merely identifying one's virtues, but recognizing one's limitations and the limitations of others. Foolishness, in the Zen perspective, is not an innate trait, but a state of ignorance rooted in ego, attachments, and unawareness. It is not to be mocked, because each of us carries seeds of foolishness within. To transcend it is a practice of self-awareness and compassion. This teaching illuminates 7 signs of foolishness, not as a means to judge others, but as a mirror to reflect upon oneself. As we dive into this exploration, let us remember the words of the enlightened. True wisdom lies in seeing things as they are, not clouded by delusion. The story begins with a search for true wisdom. A young seeker, burdened by the challenges of life, approached a Zen master. "Master," the seeker began, "how can I distinguish between wisdom and foolishness? I wish to surround myself with wise people and avoid the company of fools." The master smiled gently and motioned for the seeker to sit beside him by a tranquil pond. "Listen carefully," the master said. "Wisdom and foolishness are not separate. The wise recognize their own ignorance, while the foolish deny it. I will share with you 7 signs of foolishness, but remember, they are not for you to judge others. Use them to uncover the shadows within yourself." The seeker nodded, eager to learn. "The first sign of foolishness," the master began, "is the need to always be right. A foolish person cannot admit when they are wrong. They argue endlessly, clinging to their opinions as if their very existence depends on them." To illustrate, the master told a story of a man who believed he could control the weather with a chant he had invented. When clear skies persisted for days despite his chanting, he blamed the winds for disrupting his ritual rather than questioning his beliefs. "The fool," the master explained, "is attached to their pride. They fear the vulnerability of admitting ignorance, but the wise embrace humility, for they know that truth is greater than their ego." The seeker pondered deeply and asked, "How can one escape this trap?" The master replied, "By practicing stillness and listening. When you quiet your mind, you will see the truth without the need to defend it." The master continued, "The second sign of foolishness is refusing to learn from mistakes. A foolish person repeats their errors, convinced that someday the outcome will change." He shared the tale of a traveler who repeatedly tried to cross a broken bridge, falling into the river each time. The traveler insisted, "This time it will hold," though the bridge remained broken. "The fool," the master said, "believes their stubbornness is a sign of strength. But true strength lies in adaptability and the courage to take a new path. Wisdom arises when failure is seen as a teacher, not a punishment." The seeker asked, "What if the fear of failure keeps one from trying again?" The master smiled. "Failure is not the enemy. The fear of growth is. Acknowledge your fear, but let it guide you to reflection, not repetition." The third sign, the master continued, is the desire to appear superior. A foolish person measures their worth by comparison, seeking to elevate themselves by diminishing others. He spoke of a merchant who boasted endlessly about his wealth. Yet when another merchant arrived with greater riches, the first became bitter and envious, unable to enjoy his own success. "Envy," the master explained, "is the thief of peace. The wise do not compete, for they know their value is intrinsic, not comparative. They find joy in others' successes, as it reflects the abundance of life." The seeker reflected and asked, "How can one overcome envy?" The master answered, "Cultivate gratitude. When you appreciate what you have, you will see that the joy of others does not diminish your own." The master said, "The fourth sign of foolishness is talking more than listening. A foolish person loves the sound of their own voice, believing their words hold the most value." He shared the story of a student who interrupted the master's teachings with endless questions, never pausing to hear the answers. Frustrated, the master poured tea into the student's cup until it overflowed. "Master," the student exclaimed, "the cup is full." The master replied, "And so is your mind. How can you learn if you do not empty yourself first?" The fool, the master explained, confuses speaking with understanding. The wise listen deeply, for they know every being has something to teach. The seeker asked, "How can I practice better listening?" The master advised, "Listen not only with your ears, but with your heart. Be present, and you will hear what is truly being said." The fifth sign, the master said, is reacting instead of reflecting. A foolish person is quick to anger, judgment, or action, driven by emotion rather than clarity. He described a man who, upon hearing a rumor about his friend, ended their friendship without seeking the truth. Later, he discovered the rumor was false, but the damage was done. "The fool acts in haste and regrets at leisure," the master said. The wise pause before responding, allowing time for understanding to unfold. The seeker asked, "How can one develop patience?" The master replied, "Breathe. In moments of intensity, focus on your breath. It will anchor you in the present and create space for wisdom to arise." The sixth sign of foolishness, the master continued, is resisting change. The foolish cling to the familiar, even when it no longer serves them. He told of a farmer who refused to plant new crops despite poor harvests year after year. "I have always planted these seeds," the farmer said. "Change feels risky." The fool, the master explained, sees change as loss, while the wise see it as transformation. Growth requires letting go of what was to embrace what could be. The seeker asked, "How can one embrace change without fear?" The master answered, "Trust the flow of life. Change is inevitable, but suffering is optional. When you align with the present moment, you will see that every ending is a beginning." Finally, the master said, "The seventh sign of foolishness is judging others harshly. A foolish person sees flaws in everyone but themselves." He shared the story of a woman who criticized her neighbor's dirty laundry hanging outside. One day she realized her own window was dirty, not the laundry. "Judgment," the master said, "is a reflection of the mind that judges." The wise focus on cleaning their own windows, knowing that clarity begins within. The seeker asked, "How can one avoid judgment?" The master replied, "Practice compassion. When you see others' flaws, remember your own. Be gentle, for we are all walking the path of growth." As the seeker walked away, the weight of the teachings settled deeply in their heart. Each of the 7 signs illuminated truths they had long ignored. Truths not about others, but about themselves. They realized that wisdom is not about pointing out flaws in others, but uncovering one's own blind spots. The seeker reflected on the moments they had clung to being right, repeated mistakes, compared themselves to others, spoken more than listened, reacted impulsively, resisted change, or judged harshly. Slowly, they saw how each sign pointed to a path of growth, a way to move closer to wisdom. With each step, they vowed to practice humility, learn from mistakes, celebrate others' successes, listen deeply, pause before acting, welcome change, and show compassion. They understood the profound truth of the Master's words: the journey never ends. Wisdom is not a destination, but a continuous practice. Each moment is an opportunity to awaken, to learn, and to grow. And so, the seeker walked on, carrying the teachings in their heart, knowing that every step was part of the great unfolding, a journey toward wisdom, guided by the light of awareness.